All right, the stream has begun. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not I'll post these streams from the weekend stress test sessions, but I'll probably put a big disclaimer on the top of the stream that's like read description or something, and in the description it'll say, "I apologize, I haven't watched the VODs. Like honestly, I don't have the time to go back and watch VODs of myself at this point." But I've got the feeling there was a lot of probably like downtime when I'm trying to listen to what's going on with the team and then reading what's going on in Discord and in Slack, and then there's shit going on screen, and it was a lot to process. So I'll put a disclaimer on the videos that are basically like, this video is probably going to be a lot of me just like staring, not saying anything. So enjoy the music. Enjoy. At least you got the music. Good job, Robert. Mimit Rice, Strange J, Quixana, Life Water, Magnamar, Stoic, Chastolo, Pattis. Hello. You're very welcome for the test this weekend, Stoic. I'm glad you had fun. Talit, hello. Just figured I'd get somewhere comfortable on a rock out here in the sun. Chill out a little bit with my minion. Magnamar, thank you for the sub. Pickles Official, thank you for the follow. Gonna fry like an egg on the rock? Yeah. Yeah. I'm sitting here like this snake right now. That snake's warming itself. Captain Caldwell, hello. Noti Gang, does that mean notification gang? Are you noti by nature? He is a necromancer. I mean, he's just a GM character. I think I probably was testing something with him back in the day and kept him. I don't know. We make and delete a lot of characters. Hey Archmage. Turkan. Hello. How do you say hello, you two? Ihr beide? Ihr beiden? Hello, ihr beiden? Coding Caffeine says, hey, yeah, how was the rest of the server test? Had to bail after about an hour. It just kept getting better and better and better after that hour that you left. Maybe we were trying to figure out why. We're like, what? The lag is better. Everything's getting better. Now we know. Coding Caffeine left. All right, let's update our data. Shit, we were on the wrong trail the whole time. If we had known you had left. No, man, it went good. I'm just kidding with you. Let's see. We got slammed that first hour of the first night. We got, it's just, we were watching the count go up and like mentioning it in Slack and stuff, and it was just like, it was hey, I see Jack, thank you for the raid. We were watching the count go up, and we were like, all right, 100, 120, 170. We're like, oh, fingers crossed. 200, 240, 340, 4 something, 5 something. We're like, that's a lot of people just have flooding into a zone. So I forget, like, I mean, Ollie's gonna work up like a nice infographic like we did for the other update. And it'll hit on some of those stats, but I think we got like just under 1,000 in. Like CCU was 1,000, and I think that was when they were starting to distribute across. We had 3 servers up in total. How many were we expecting? We were expecting. Let's be real. Nicodemus, thank you for the 5 gift subs and your continued generosity. Dark Edict, Dom, Roxel, Turkan. Hey, lucky you, buddy. Trexid. Now you get to like skip commercials or something. Thanks, Nicodemus. Yeah, so we were expecting, we saw that we had like on Discord we had 1,000 something or whatever, 1,200 like, you know, like, hey, I'll be there, buddy. But we figured it would be the usual kind of like, I'm gonna be there for sure, man. And then we estimated we'd have far less than the 1,000 that said I'll be there, and you know the maybes and stuff, because that's how shit rolls sometimes. But then when we were watching the actual registrations roll in from Tuesday on, it was like, all right, we started to hit like 2,000, just over 2,000, and we're like, okay, well, this is gonna, you know, this is gonna be interesting. So yeah. That's how that was. Let me finish catching up on hellos. Fargo, yeah, sorry, buddy. Hello. Don't want to play anything except Eminem after the test, Strange Jay said. I mean, it's a good spot to be in, but now, guys, now we're hit. It's gonna be interesting. We'll get into this after I catch up on with folks. But one of the topics we're gonna be hitting on is longevity and patience, shit like that. So. Norse Yeti said stress test was a blast. I died horribly to a train of skeletons. Haven't laughed that hard in a long time. Yeah, there was when we shut the servers down, one of our stats is there are 2,666 corpses laying around across 3 newbie yards. So yeah, slash hide corpse gonna definitely be a optimization that'll help a lot of you guys. Robert Helsinki says, greetings, Sean and company. Robert here, changed username. Oh, Bob, 1976. How will we ever spot you again, buddy? Chinny D, hello. Hope you're doing well. It was fun. It was fun rating you. Tomicon, hello. Crescents, hey. Thank you, Tomicon. C-Jack, your goblin looks like something goblin would draw. Is that Goblin's goblin? No, that's your goblin. Okay. So I answered how many were we expecting. Cool. Stress test was amazing. Did all 12 hours and haven't had that much fun in a game in years. Magnamar, thank you very much. You guys, remember, we were just excited to like, we were excited registration worked. We were excited the installer worked. We were excited that when we opened the gates, you know, a data center in New York didn't lose power or something. We were just happy to be able to get you guys in, and this will, you know, what you played this weekend is hopefully, I mean, by all possible metrics, it should be the worst that the game is, right? So we're still super early on. You guys know that. I think some of the new people that heard from a friend or a friend of a friend about the test and came in, maybe some of them aren't as aware of like where we're at in development and the fact that we're still working through a lot of shit and blah, blah, blah. But hopefully many of you are, right? So Golden Glove said, I told friends who don't use Discord, they joined in. Yeah, we had a lot of people come from different sources, and we're extremely thankful for that. Our metrics went through the roof. Our website metrics are insane. You know, so it was really awesome that you guys got the word out. It was really, really cool seeing people's behavior in the stress test. Everybody is super cool. I think we might have, maybe that was in Discord. I don't know. We had all of our GM commands put in place beforehand and all that stuff in case you were saying naughty words or doing weird shit or whatever. We've got some wonderful stuff to try to help us keep order, but everybody was really cool. The thing that I loved the most personally was just seeing how quickly /OOC became, I mean, it just became a great representative of the community, right? Like OOC was very much like answering questions for folks, and when people were like, I can't find this, or I can't find my trainer, or I can't, it was funny. There were like little parties of people gathering up and trying to find shit that maybe isn't as intuitive as it could be because we're still working. But you know what I mean? Like it was really cool. It was really cool seeing people just really kind of behave like they would in a game where they're really excited to be in there and having a good time, and it's like live, blah blah blah. So Yellow Dan, thank you for the sub, buddy. Let's see. Captain Caldwell said, to be honest, I heard about Eminem on Thursday, instantly fell in love. I haven't watched all the VODs yet, I'll be honest. The weather was good the last couple of days, and I really needed to get some garden time in as well. Yesterday was a bank holiday here in Germany. I don't know. Is Labor Day a holiday in other places? It is here. And so there's little decompression time and stuff. Picking at some work, doing a bit of decompression, but then I haven't caught up on all the VODs. But I could have sworn I saw your name, Captain Caldwell. Did you make a video? The CJX said, I thought Labor Day was a holiday everywhere except US. That may actually, I think I've heard that as well. Let's see. Definitely seemed like a lot of people in game Discord thought the game was further along than it is. Yeah, Memorize. That was one of those things where we're really worried about what's the reception going to be, and like how are people going to roll out of this and be like, oh, WTF, this game is not even finished yet. How are they in beta, right? Like, so we were hoping there wouldn't be a ton of that, but it seems like based on us checking different things, it seems like people mostly get it. Just honestly, I think due to the fact that so many people in the established community are helping maintain sort of the message. Stonealistic said, ability bar is looking great there, Sean. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've still naturally we haven't really started on, UI development. There's a project where we've got like 3 or 4 different UIs working right now that at some point Ollie wants to consolidate into one UI system, and then we're going to iterate on the art and the functionality and stuff like that. We have a concept of some UI functionality we've talked about that is in an old update. If you guys aren't in the habit of reading the updates, honestly, they're not just like, oh, it's Thursday and blah, blah, blah. There's unique information in each update. And because of the fact that it takes us a while to get to different stuff in development, there are going to be things like, you'll see this update that's got a lot of UI concepts and stuff in it that aren't in here yet. It's worth going back to. So if you're not used to going back to the updates section of the website, you should. That once people realize they should group, I went from level 1 and 2 in like 10 minutes and 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and from there 2 to 3 in no time. Yeah. So one of the concerns is there's a lot of tuning that we still want to do with regards to mob balance, player character balance, classes, abilities, underlying formula tweaks, all that shit. And even little things like the rate at which you get your first skill points and all of that have an impact in the feel of the game. The challenge is if we're soloing the whole time in testing, or if, friends and families going and there's a lot of, if there's 4 or 5 people that play, but they're not necessarily grouping together, then it's one feel. But then my curiosity was, all right, when you've got that many people sort of bum rushing a newbie yard, what's that feel like, right? And so it's a data point. It's not to say that, oh, now we've reached a conclusion or whatever, but it's nice to see that. And one of the big goals for doing the stress test is to get us to a point where we feel comfortable going, hey, we can run a test this weekend, or hey, we can run a test for a few hours. Or, I mean, especially I would love to be able to go, hey, I've got, I got a stream coming up on this day. Can we open the servers for 2 hours? Or, just like surprise. And then we don't tell anybody else, just you guys. If they're not in the stream, have them. They don't need to know. It'll just be us. Right? So that type of stuff. So this was really just meant to get us going. So let's see. I'm gonna catch up with Chad. I see you guys scrolling down there in the monitor, but had a lot of fun running around buffing people because my onboard graphics came like 15 FPS. Sorry, Justin. We'll get optimizations in, buddy, and we will definitely be looking at accessibility and stuff. We love all the feedback that you give because the challenges you have with your site are definitely a strong case for us to learn from. Hey, Encrypt. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Fargo, Bitwise, invited 3, but only 1 showed up, but I had fun and understood the state of the game. Big EQ fans, of course. Awesome. Servers were near alley correct, Nicodemus said. If so, latency was pretty good. So I think we had servers in New York. We were originally in Rotterdam, I believe. I think we might have had 1 server in EU and the other one's in New York, but that's really a good Ollie question. Ollie's got the flu. So he's in bed. Otherwise, he was thinking about hopping in and answering some questions and stuff. So I'm hoping he gets feeling better, and then can hop on here and answer some of your tech questions. Was so wholesome. Few of us elementalists completed the tough newbie quest thanks to OC talk and meeting up for help. I love it. Fargo says, been casually following M&M development since the Blue Capsule characters. Really enjoyed the test. Yeah, we've come a ways, right? UK Rad says, hey Sean, love the stress test. Thanks so much for having us. Can't wait for the next one. Again, just thank you for being there. Let me actually feed myself. I'm starving behind the scene. I don't use the GM food, which you can stack to 1,000, just because I'm not used to it and I'm a creature of habit. I need to start using GM food. I'll make a macro for it. Captain Caldwell said, would a shortened video of highlights be better for me? I just need to make the time and watch the video. I mean, shortened video of highlights tend to be good for people in general. They seem to like it. It's a good way to sort of cannibalize your own content into something. It's not really cannibalization if you're getting more value out of it. All right. You know what I mean, though. Zenfar said, I was blown away by the entire experience as someone who has never played EQ. Can't wait to see more. We're actually, I think, the more non-EQ people we get in to look at things, I'm very curious about their point of view, right? Shifty on the team, she's not from an EQ background, but she's played MMOs, and it's been really, really awesome seeing the stuff that people are like, people that don't like EverQuest, they're never going to like how difficult this is or obtuse this is or that thing or whatever. And then it's cool seeing her go, oh my God, I love that I'm learning things and the challenges and all this stuff. So it's interesting. We have more than sort of, when we look at who our target audience is, it's broken into different groups, and it's more than just people that played MMOs in 99 and 2000. And some of the assumptions that we've made about how those people respond to this type of environment are proving true. So that's always nice. Riker says a lot of people who don't understand the concept of alpha beta builds expect every game to be perfect immediately. Yeah, and it happens. We just will continue to reiterate our message. Let's see. You guys could open up tomorrow. People pay for it. It is that good. Cypher, thank you. But if we did that, then they would pay for like 1 month and then they would be gone. And then we would have ruined our opportunity. Turkin says, I like how the inventory looks. It fits the game. Appreciate it. And we're gonna be improving, like, we've got placeholder icons, so you can kind of see some test icons and stuff we got. It's gonna be cool when we get it done. But we're gonna be iterating. It's gonna be awesome. Booty clap, what up? Reading Discord after the stress test has been amazing. Absolutely in love with how invested people are in this project. Felt like I was there. What a great fan base. Yeah. Now keep in mind, and this is not to diminish any of the cool stuff you guys are saying. I was, like I said, I'm trying to work my way through the videos, and I was getting through Super Bits and Bob's video, and he makes a point that is a valid point, that is something that we think about. Hey, Zukin, I wasn't ignoring you, buddy. Is there are these honeymoon phases, right? And guys, you're in another honeymoon phase. You got a sample of the game, which is awesome. But at some point, we do have to manage like the frequency with which you guys are going to get access and kind of get that feel, the rate at which you kind of blow through what we have, the rate at which we get things developed, and just kind of watch our pacing as we do the marathon towards getting proof of concept done. So folks aren't like, oh, I love it, it was so much fun this weekend, and then like 3 months are like on forums, WTF, these guys are never going to ship. And then it's like kind of like the oscillating vaporware wave. Oh, this is vaporware. Oh my god, this is cool. Oh, it's vaporware, right? So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Nicodemus, we try to reinforce expectations just so that you guys could help us with that. And I think was the point I was trying to make earlier. Let's see. Fargo said, one thing I didn't like was dropping your spellbook. I'm sorry, buddy. People in Discord have discussed some good tactics for that, though. I think Brown Butcher was somebody that was saying it as well. It's like, mem your spells, throw your spellbook in the bank. Let's see. I'll have to, I'm so behind on chat. I'll have to ask about your schedule before opening up tests on streams. Senseless Eric, okay. I pinky promise. I'm gonna skip all those because but you did find the bone chip quest giver. Awesome. Thanks, Yellow Dan. Unchained P99 said server 3 in Amsterdam best, other 2 in New York. I was on server 3 most of the time. It wasn't bad. Monte Leon said, I disagree with that completely. My nephews are dying to play M&M. I introduced them EQ and they loved it. Awesome. Should send out a survey. Yeah, we will likely send something out probably. We just need to think about what we want on it. EQ2 count, missed EQ hard with my first MMO being 2002 and fell in love with the world from EQ. I mean, we're pulling a lot of inspiration from like every game that we enjoyed in that era, right? So, and different people on the team have different degrees of love for certain other games, but there's a lot of just and I'll get into this topic in a bit, but there are a lot of ideas that we look at from just games in general. There tends to be, I think, a belief that we're just looking at one game and going, oh, we're gonna make it like that. And honestly, we don't really. Our goal is to find the elements in all the games that we've deconstructed that we feel come together to make the experience that we want to make. And so this stuff winds up being very much an amalgamation of very specific things that we're wanting to try. And some of the stuff isn't there. Some of the things we try aren't going to work the first time, or they may not work at all, but we need to, we need to have the leeway to try these things. And, there's often, you know what, before I kick off any more topics, let me just catch up with chat so that I'm not all the way behind. Viro said, we had a first time non-EQ player play with our group as Wizard, and they had a lot of fun. Awesome. Captain Caldwell said, I don't have an EQ background, MMO experience, WoW, RuneScape, Diablo, all different. I like this game because it makes you work for it. Yeah, so that's going to be, and we're going to be talking about that theme a fair bit moving forward. The decisions that we're making are very intentional on that front. It's about interaction. It's about moment to moment, even super minute interactions that reinforce the sense of place and being there, and it being more focused on like the, without sounding too douchey, like the virtual world part of it than just the game. while not throwing the game out with the bathwater. Tupac Shakur said, came here to say I saw you made it past the P99 Reddit, so you're doing something good. Oh, right on. I've posted a lot of I think I've posted all my interview videos there, and they seem like a really good crew there. It's a cool Reddit. What will be on the focus on development for the next month? What is the next milestone checklist? We'll talk more about that as we go. We've got some ideas, but a lot of what we're wanting to do is come out of this stress test with immediate action items, while we then do a retrospective on the lead up to this sort of end of this milestone, see what action items we get out of that to sort of adjust our processes or whatever. And then as part of that, we'll be working towards a new milestone goal. Got stuff in mind. Probably going to be cool. Need to talk to the team, and then we'll go. Coding Caffeine said, I also think expectations are easier when people are not, when nobody is financially invested. It's a big part of it, right? And so that's part of the balancing act is, no investment, but again, we should feel maybe a little less bad when we say, we hear what you're saying on your feedback, or we hear that you don't like a thing or whatever, but this is what we're wanting to try. Lyra said the second half of day 2 felt amazing. Yeah, at that point we were running, I think we're running about like a 600 person CCU across the 3 servers, which when you consider that that's the bulk of those people were in 3 newbie zones, that's kind of a normal distribution, honestly. A couple hundred people in a newbie, in one city with newbie yards is not bad. So that's pretty legit. Like that was fairly normal. We've definitely identified some optimizations. There's some stuff that Ollie's looking at in the network code that we can improve and stuff like that. So Crescent says, Robot, I say this with all utmost excitement for y'all's project. I personally manage Vaporware Wave by doing my best to only check in infrequently. Yeah, I hear you. And there's certain places where every once in a while, like, I'm very curious about the feedback. But if I go there too often, it's just like, womp womp. So just kind of, all right. I can't, go full on, like, don't read the comments, but yeah. Our Discord though, I love, the feedback there. Even though there's a, fair amount that I just don't agree with. So hey, there's gonna be that debate, I think, forever of what constitutes quality of life and, all of that shit. So yeah, Dreamed, the open test is over for now. I miss this. Stone Listic. Any GMs here from EQ1 or EQ2? Former GM Renobi here. What era was that? I've got the feeling it was after my time. Zukin's nose animations are A+. Yeah, the Were-Rat's super cute. One of my favorite models in a game is the EQ Rat Men. Those guys are super handsome. Let's see. Dreamed, I missed your reference when you say like Gorgon. I feel it's referencing something, but I missed it up there. Vonta says, that's one of the things I just opened a discussion about Discord. I'm concerned about the mentality of a niche demographic. New players are needed, not just old dogs. I think the game has real appeal to younger generation. Vonta Leon, was that you? Because I was just looking at that as well. And I don't know if we're saying some of the same things or if there's... Yeah, it is you. Okay, Vonta. I may not agree with your assessment of certain things, so it may be something that we can talk through. but you may be saying, I may just be misreading what you're saying. Yeah, that's fewer investors equals more freedom. Yeah. But it then depends sheerly on the good graces of the team, to be honest. It just becomes, how long will the team continue to invest and believe in the project? We're incredibly ultra fortunate for the efforts of the team. Let's see. Akil Labak says, honestly, it is the mud stuff that has my brain flowing. As a explorer-heavy MMO player, I feel I run out quicker than some types of gamer. Having the ability to need to search every nook and cranny for something secret that needs extra thought makes me so happy. Yeah, and if you consider the fact that mud objects or mud actions, and also NPCs, quests, basically everything that you interact with has the ability to be variable based off of different conditions, right? So let me, since it's nighttime, well, it's already nighttime. Next time it's daytime, I'll run over there. For now, we'll look at the beautiful city in the background. Right. So just because you look somewhere one day doesn't mean that there might not be something there a different day based off of the moon cycle, based off of the season, based off of some item you may have in your possession. All of that shit. So the goal is to make the world feel as mysterious as possible for as long as possible. When people come in and they ask me during almost every EQ interview, somebody asks, when I've had guests here, they're like, have all the quests been found, right? That to me, after a game has been live for 20 some years, is a powerful statement and an interesting sort of challenge. Let's see. Converter says new MMOs are too hand-holding. Old school MMOs, VQ and Anarchy Online created memories, a sense of adventure, along with interaction with people for hours while grouping. That's what I miss. Thank you, Brown Butcher. I was just referencing you earlier. I don't know if you're in here yet. Brown Butcher said, I met some new friends in game and I'm talking with one of them about trying to start our own game. That is badass. That is fantastic. Memories already made. Shift J says, love my time with Game Over Weekend. Congrats. Thank you very much. What is the tone of the game you're looking for? Though there was ogre butt scratching and goblin ass and EQ, is largely a very sincere world which treated its world with respect instead of relying too much on cheap jokes, allowing people to believe in the fantasy. Yeah, I mean, when WoW came out, I was pretty jealous as a developer because when WoW came out, it was like all of the kind of memey content and, get to the chopper, like all of the interesting pop culture references and shit that they were doing made me feel kind of jealous because I was like, oh man, this is actually cool. But they did it. They've done it. It's done. They did a good job. I think, if I were to pick something, like if I were to pick a field between okay, two games I played, WoW and EQ, I like that old, especially original EQ had charming characters, and because of the art, the art style, if you look at Rick Schmidt's his concepts, and then maybe some magic that Rosie put in there or whatever, things were just really charming, but it was still scary and it was still serious. There were there were definitely a handful of Van Halen references and shit like that in there, and Bate Masterson and things like that, but for the most part it was internally consistent, and we took it seriously. I enjoyed it and took it seriously as a player. And then when I got on the team, the team was extremely serious about the integrity of the product, right? April Noel, thank you for the follow. So Yeah, so don't expect a lot of cheap jokes and weird references and shit. We wanna have our own vibe, and we don't want people to be taken out of the world. I mean, there are a couple like little names and references and stuff in here that I've seen, some of which have already been removed. And I was like, that's okay, that's fine. But can you create a poll and have the NPCs, eminent player characters, kind of catchy, isn't it? Pick the next race for Zukin to sculpt. Maybe later. We've got some stuff to talk about in terms of lining things up. That will probably keep the art guys busy for a little bit, but it may be a fun thing to do at some point. But yeah, sorry to be flaky on that one. One sec. Oh, scroll. Knights Ricks, thank you for the follow. All right. Vante said, Robot, I haven't seen much from you or Eminem devs on that forum, more so the community. Yeah, well, and sometimes it's nice to like just let people talk and observe and kind of see what's going on rather than like put the comment in there and potentially shut down the conversation or whatever. But if things start to circle too much, or if it's just like you're wasting your time, kid, then we would maybe step in or whatever. Plus, honestly, there's a lot of stuff being posted. There's a lot of other stuff to get done in the day. I think if we're only in the forums at the moment, then that's all we'd probably be getting done. Converter, thank you for the follow. Team Bosch said, at the end of the day, if you aren't making your dream game, then you end up building something that satisfies no one. Be inspired by feedback that excites you, but don't listen to feedback that doesn't align with your dream. Lots of people are going to hate this game. As long as you love your game, like-minded people will also love your game. Yeah, and the trick is whether or not it's enough people and sort of making that determination. And then honestly, because it's a team effort, right? There needs to be a understanding within the broader team of like, where are we going and is everybody aligned and how do we feel about that and all, right? It's not just a single, it's not like an individual's vision, but it needs to be vision, for lack of a better term, needs to be driven, but it does need to, align. That's also not it. The key, I think, is going to be having a recognizable vision that can be articulated, especially to the team at a minimum, that allows them to have input and see that input is factored in where it works. But then ultimately, if people aren't in line with the vision on the team, if it's the whole team, then there's a conversation. If it's one or two people, then it could be they're just on the wrong team or something, right? So that's always one of those things you have to figure out on any project. Oh man, Brown Butcher's got a meeting. Sorry, buddy. And also, D loves pudding. But we'll be discussing the topic repeatedly, I'm sure. Let's see. New MMOs may be hand-holding in certain aspects, but boss encounters are way more sophisticated than old school MMOs for sure. Yeah, but it's also interesting then to see what the basis of the sophistication is or what the intent is. Is it pushing skill? Is it pushing like certain mechanical skill? Is it pushing a combination of mechanical and game knowledge? You know what I mean? Like, is it actually, how skill-based do you wind up feeling like the experience is versus, how much of it is just part of progression? Like the early stuff was, have you geared up enough and basic strats, and it evolved pretty quickly after that. Cake says, I hope the devs don't fall into the trap that old school MMOs did everything correct. We won't. We haven't. But I hope that people in the community don't fall into the trap that just because they don't see how utilization of an old school mechanic is critical, that they go, oh, the devs are just doing it because it was in an old school game. Like I said earlier in the stream, there are going to be a lot of elements that are, they feel dated, or they feel like, oh, we've moved on from that or whatever, or, oh, that's not the best design or quality of life or whatever. When we're using something like that, trust me. Well, if the belief is that we aren't aware enough of what we're doing that we would recognize that, hey, this is one of those old mechanics that people may not sort of understand why we're picking it, then you're probably in the wrong community anyway, right? Because you're basically saying these guys don't know what they're doing. They're just doing this because it was in another game. And not to sound like, but in my opinion, that's my belief. That's my interpretation of truth or whatever, right? It's like, oh, they're just doing it because of blah. Well, okay, then you don't get what we're doing. When we pick certain things, it's because we believe that that creates a certain experience or creates a certain feel. And sometimes there's friction that comes from that experience that we're like, all right, we want to see what we can do with this. And then in other areas, folks also need to realize that you're seeing the game in development. You're seeing the game as we're going. Now, I don't want that to be the excuse for everybody to go, oh yeah, but they'll change that, right? Because stuff comes up in Discord and it's like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like the fact that there's whatever. And I don't like the fact that you got to use / command. Okay. The correct response isn't, well, but it's early in development. They'll probably get rid of / commands. No, just ask. Are you guys going to continue to have like weird / commands? Yeah, probably. I don't like the fact that you got to type to the NPC. Okay. But we're picking that very intentionally. Now, can we improve potentially how you do that? Like, is it its own window and things like that? That's been discussed on the team for years now, right? How can we improve the overall chat experience? How can we improve the fact that we like using text? Text tells a lot of story and stuff. And it gives us a lot of ability to make a lot of cool shit without having to just rely on the fidelity of art. So how do we improve the text experience? Because you're going to get some text. Knight says, I love the concept. I played for years back in the day. However, I'm older these days and with kids and a million activities. What are the prospects for solo content, or how does higher level progression look? I sadly rarely have the time for 2-hour groups just to gain a touch of XP. We want to, to be honest, experience will be low. Now the question is, can we make a game where you enjoy being in the world and appreciate any progress that you do make and feel that there's interesting stuff for you to do and that you're part of an environment that is interesting, even if you are progressing slower than others? And some of that's going to be in, what non-combat activities we have, what sense of place we create, what sort of interdependencies exist in terms of, sure, you're gaining experience slower, but maybe the shit that you're killing at your lower level is something that other people aren't killing, and it feeds well into the economy, right? So, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Vante says, confusion is probably on me trying to clarify. I think the fear of change is being misconstrued with quality of life ideas. But I think I'm getting that. You said, but I opened the discussion because I wanted to actually discuss it. I believe strongly communication, open dialogue. Yep. So do we. That's why we've been streaming the whole time. So.
Hey man, I'm at work but wanted to pop in and just say thanks for the testing and all the hard work to you and your team. My girlfriend and I had a great time and are very much looking forward to more.
Mecha Dangerous, thank you for 24 months. I'm glad you were able to play with your girlfriend. That's actually, every time I hear that, it makes me happy that people were playing with their friends or playing with, family and stuff. It makes me super, super happy. April Noel says, do you think we'll see another test phase this month? Honestly, we don't have a firm plan at all for upcoming tests, but we'll definitely clue you guys in as we start to develop sort of what our cadence is going to be with that. So on the previous topic, let's see. Robert distracted me with the he's got some chicken in the oven. I kind of blasted through dinner tonight. I might have to eat some candy in a bit. Kevin Caldwell said, same with the quest log, give us one, but basically have it be notepad. We've talked a bit about kind of the Morrowind experience there, creating something where once you've had the interaction with the NPC, it'd be nice to put interactions into a notepad for you or a record for you, and then potentially have that be searchable, etc. We'll play around with that. We've got a lot of text, and we understand that shit happens. And rather than put quest objectives on your screen and little bullet points and stuff, it really I don't think is a big compromise to record what the interaction was for you and have it there so you can go back and reread it. But you still need to reread it, right? So, yeah. Teron said, just because things went in a different direction in the standards of game design doesn't mean that it was bad design. It was just different. Very few designs are outright bad. They all had positives and negatives. Yeah, I mean, we pull a lot of inspiration from what we believe are the things that also inspired the first MMOs, right? When you're looking at just some of the stuff that we played before there was that first wave of MMOs that kind of popularized the genre for a lot of us. I mean, I really enjoyed old CRPGs and text-based adventure games and things. And then as a designer, I was only a designer before I became a producer for like 11 years. And during that entire period, there was always this argument of, man, it sucks that there's so much emphasis on graphical fidelity instead of gameplay and interaction, right? And there's a lot of jokes in the past of like, man, if we could just make a 2D game, I think there was one point where I think I was playing like one of the, I forget what it was called. I forget which Zelda it was. It was quite a while back, and it was like one of the top-down-ish 3/4 view 2D. Probably remembering it wrong. Anyways, I was playing a game, and the number of verbs that they had, right? Like all these little verbs that were just dependent on simple actions, right? Like if I stand on the leaf and then I use my whatever, like wand or whatever thing was like fan or whatever is causing enemies to blow backwards, it also allowed me to sort of like push across the water on that leaf. And looking back at all the old like Ultimas, the early Ultima 1 through sort of 5 for me was kind of the big thing. It was just interesting because the world felt mysterious and full of like possibilities, but things were so simple looking, right? And then you get into bigger worlds and it's like, oh, this is really cinematic and tells a great story and will make a wonderful HBO show, but I literally can't run over there, right? Like I literally can't, do these things that seem intuitive. And so the idea was just by putting emphasis more into kind of the more mud side of things with regards to some of the interactions and keeping things text-based, and taking the approach that we are with a number of things, even like NPC interaction and, the mud actions and stuff like that. It just winds up being a place where we can explore more verbs without a dramatic sort of increase in graphic fidelity and budget and all of that, right? So, and it allows our brains to fill in a lot of the blank. when everything's spelled out, that's cool, but it's not a not an opportunity to sort of like insert myself into the fantasy, I guess. Bat Mike, thank you for the follow. Yeah. Mika said, my girlfriend and I are both UK veterans, very much loved what we saw. Definitely left us wanting more. Right on. Southpaw said, I have a question related to economy. When you sell items to an NPC, do those items sold by players stay in the merchant's inventory and are available for purchase? Southpaw, yes, they are. They are available. And over time, we'll be exploring different ideas for how to try to make them stay relevant and useful. Hell's Ridge, the current focus is us working through some of the essentially the information that was derived from the playtest is now allowing Ali and company to make some improvements and changes, and then the team will be talking a bit about where to go next shortly. Yushu says music is so good. The music is fantastic. Excuse me. The music man was in here unless he went to eat his chicken. But yeah, very consistent bit of feedback that folks really enjoyed the music, which I'm hoping made Robert's day over and over and over again. The NBGT said, funnily enough, when I used to play Minecraft around the beta release period, I used to die a lot, so I'm used to corpse run. So this was something that was pointed out by... Who pointed that out? Was it Ollie? No. I think it was maybe... Was it first? Somebody was just pointing that out on the team that I was talking to. Was like... just how quickly you can just get deaded in Minecraft. It's just like, bam. And then, yeah. You know, Minecraft is a pretty rough game at times as well, was basically the point that they're making. Adichie says, I like how interactive text quests can be. Yep. I'm glad you do. All right, so we got one of you. Cherub Down, thank you for the follow. Being able to get NPCs to repeat themselves would be helpful. I think this is going to address another question that's below. Zinfar, whose question was it? Strange Days. Yeah, so we're thinking about basically having that text, once it's been fired, go into a journal for you. But it's not, you know what I mean? Like, so that type of journal, so that you can go back and reread it. And then when you're like, the NPC didn't tell me what to do, this quest is broken, then we can just be like, no, really, seriously, go back and reread it. And better yet, it would be great if somebody in OOC was like, no, really, go back and read your journal. Cherub Down, thank you for Prime. Yeah, and since we tend to get wordy, Luna and I wrote a lot of the quests, and we're a regular Robert Jordans here when it comes to the amount of text is flying at you from a given quest, so it'll help. Would it be possible for a map that we have to manually fill out, or is any type of map off the table? No, we've talked about, and we'll see if it happens or not, but we've talked about the idea of having there be a map with no Essentially it's just a static map. There's no little location on it or anything like that. There's nothing that indicates where you are. You need to use it to basically do land navigation. Kind of like, a map but not GPS. And the idea of having those be things that can be earned and created, but probably through some sort of, we've got cartographer trainer in here. We just haven't figured out exactly how we're going to use them. And then because you could also maybe get a map that shows something, and then there might be another map in existence that shows something different, right? Or a treasure map or whatever. So, but that's kind of down it's a ways out. And honestly, it's one of those things where if we just said, hey, we don't have time and we're going to go live without maps, we'd be okay with that as well. Riker said Alpha Minecraft gave me Series CQ vibes. Not like the same game anymore though. Yeah, so I think for different people, depending on what your background was, if it was EQ or Swig or Dayoc or EQ2 or Classic WoW or whatever, a lot of times when people are like, hey, it gave, this gave me these certain vibes, that's the mojo that we're trying to sort of figure out, right? Like, what's that vibe about? I would say that, and again, just a reference because I was watching it before dinner, was watching Super Bits and Bob's stream, and it's funny how much he was hitting on it as well. And some people in Discord have really, really, I think, hit it and agree. Like one of the things that's very important to me, at least, and I say that just because I don't want to speak for the team sometimes, and hopefully I just realized hopefully these streams don't sound like a whole shitload of I statement. But vibe is important. Like, it's as much about creating a vibe as it is everything else. Not to say that gameplay is not important, not to say that certain balance implications are important or having a sound economy isn't important and all that shit, but it's about creating a vibe. And one of the things that I think we've been really good at, right? Like, and again, I think apologies for the times where I say it's really important to me. I usually will say that because I don't like speaking for other people sometimes. I don't want to put words in other people's mouth. But, like, clearly, Robert gets the vibe, right? Like, the music to me, and it was one of those things when we first met Robert, like, we started talking to Robert, and it was interesting because, like, checking out Robert's YouTube, the music, I was just like, oh my God, I'm so into this. Because it wasn't just like, it wasn't a portfolio of like orchestral fantasy music, right? It wasn't like this. It was, I mean, it's just remixes and 80s stuff and, the like the C64. And it's just like, and I was so kind of taken aback and like, really, is this happening right now? Are we about to get weird with the music? And Robert's like, do music, do sounds. And dude, the ability to nail the just different vibes and just different takes on shit. And it's like, oh, this has got just like glass flats. It's got that like kind of funky 80s thing going on. And, Wormsbane, the music, when he posted it up there, and we were talking about inspiration beforehand, and he's like, oh man, I got ideas, and then came back and I'm just like, goosebumps, right? The stuff that we're listening to. So not to give you a big head, Robert, but I mean, you're an actual literal rock star, so I'm sure your head's big enough. He's going to be like, only green M&Ms for the next meeting. But man, it was just so like, it's such a great vibe thing. And, this moment here, lighting, shadows, strong shape language, like trying to hit the right, this rock needs love, but like eventually hitting the right, like sort of textures and the right amount of like, oh, look at this shit. You can see the polys and it's blocking and it's old school. And yet it's the dope Ollie sand and stuff. Right. So it's like, Yeah, that's it's vibe is very important, and the decisions that we make, the decisions that we make, controversial or not, are with vibe in mind, right? And I think sometimes the controversial decisions will have to just trust us for a bit. If we get closer to release and we've made a decision and we're like, fuck, this just isn't working, then I hope we've proven in the 337 videos that are posted in the couple years of talking to you guys and everything else, that if we find that it's just like it's not working, we're not, we're really open people. We talk to you about stuff. It may come off defensive every once in a while, but it's just because it's like a reiteration of this is the vision. And it's meant to try some stuff. It's meant to create a certain vibe. It's meant to create a certain amount of social friction. It's meant to create a certain like potential reliance on each other, right? We were talking about this a little bit with the starter quest. And I just saw that Martin Entschuldigung. Ich glaube, du hast es gefunden. Yep. Vielen Dank, Nick. So the saying. Anyway, the creation of the newbie quest. Right? Believe it or not, one of the thoughts, and we've discussed this with friends and family people, so you can say if it's, like folks out there know that this has been a discussion, right? Like the idea going into the newbie quest, and it's something that, I was thinking about in mine. We've talked a bit, like Luna and I, and the idea was some newbie quests were going to teach some people these things, and some newbie quests will teach some of the other people these other things. And there's some overlap. Like if you've done the Bard quest and if you've done the Rogue quest, then you're probably familiar with some different parts of the city. If you've done the Enchanter quest, and you probably, and between the three of them, if other people who are doing other things haven't been to some other place, then the hope was in kind of structuring quests where not everybody gets everything. Not everybody is going on a tour of the city. Not everybody is getting all the mud actions and all that stuff. The idea was hopefully when there's a bunch of people in there, and yes, this does break down if you're the only person on the server, but you know what? If you're the only person on the server, we've got other issues. So if we're retaining value in the cities, and we've got, there's a lot of those doors you couldn't open, a lot of player housing, and a lot of reasons to come back to the cities, and a lot of shit under the cities you haven't seen yet, and a lot of big plans for shit around the city, and expeditions that leave from the city and come back to the city, and more stuff under the city you haven't seen yet, and people in the city that you eventually want to kill. Who knows, right? Like, then when you're coming in a year later and you're like, I don't know what this is, and no one's holding my hand, right? It's like, it's Stabby. I get what you're saying there. There may be some tunnels full of that. The thing is, like, people can go in OOC, hey dude, come over here. And that's how you meet people, and that's how you learn, like, oh shit, when I talk to the community, I get information. And there are a lot of people that take pride in having information and going like, hey, I want to help you along, right? And so when we're talking about making a social experience, then there are those things that are helpful at times. What about random treasure maps that drop from mobs? Something primitive, like two tall trees marked with an X. The question I would have is it, would that be something that we would actually do as an art asset? Is it a description, like text that's like, follow the holler down?
Really enjoyed the stress test. Keep up the good work.
Cacao, thank you for 6 months. I'm glad you enjoyed the stress test. I missed something up here about static maps, and Fat Mike said, "Hooah!" Robert Jordan fan. And Kildor said, by the way, love the balloon dragon at the end of the stress test. Oh, capsule dragon. The music got handled. Robert said, I only have a big head when I'm in rap form with 500% growth. Yeah, Robert's the nicest dude. Swanee says, one of the reasons why the Disney parks are so popular, they have music that sets the vibe everywhere. The music definitely helps put you in the right emotion. You know, I don't think I've been there since I was a tiny kid. My family lives in Florida, so I wound up going there as a tiny kid. And man, some of those terrifying but exciting, you know, evenings on like, oh man, Pirates of the Caribbean and other stuff. Just crazy. It when you're young, it does such an amazing job of putting you into imagination space. Beer Chug said, one of the fun things about the starting quest is I never did it. I just went in and found a camp and started grinding away. And you had the freedom to do it, right? We give you the freedom to do it. The challenging thing is when we get feedback from people that are like, hey man, this quest is, I'm finding it difficult or I don't like it and blah, blah, blah. And then the sort of last statement of the feedback is, but I usually don't do quests ever. Like, okay, so we may not be able to make a quest that you love. Somebody asked earlier about which, I don't know. Missouri Meerschaum, which I guess is English for Meerschaum, which is what? Ocean foam? Smells really nice though. I'm just sitting here smelling it. Adopting by chance? How good at you are at farm work? Excuse me. Capsule and ship bosses must exist in game. Yeah, wouldn't be shocked. Bilbo says, look, dude, it says it on here. I'm just reading the thing. It's the Missouri Meerschaum is a corncob pipe. It's also a company. And the company, I guess, makes tobacco. I'm not a pipe expert, dude. I'm just someone that enjoys the smell of them. Yeah, I don't see any other identifier here. Company. I'm not allowed to advertise that probably. I probably just got disconnected from Twitch. Oh. No, I didn't feel that you were laughing at me. I just felt like I didn't have a good answer for you. I was like, shit, I don't have any other information. I got a yellow tin full of stuff. The other smoke is the other stuff is something plum. Something plum. BGFX, you smoke a pipe. I can see that. I can picture that. BGFX, when you stream, are you gonna use video or are you gonna hide and not show yourself? Hebrew Hammer says, I'm a pipe enjoyer as well, just not tobacco fan. I get what you're saying. I'm trying to find any hobby or habit that will just make me look older and older and older. Freak said, I think ESO did as ESO did as well, the treasure thing that is. Yeah, I know a couple of games have done it. We'll have to look and see how they do it. Shards of Dahlia is a depth system. Didn't they? Don't they also have a treasure hunt system? Anyways, got a bunch of notes on it. Yushu says, I've definitely smelled some suspect ocean foam in my day, but have you / tasted it? Yeah, I didn't realize that was even on camera. Slide your spectacles down your nose about half an inch. Oh, I can't see shit that way. I immediately go blind. Here, let's run over here. Oops. Sit somewhere else for a bit. Used to snooze, but trying to cut out tobacco. Yeah, I actually, I don't blame you. I really shouldn't have ever decided. The only reason why I bought a pipe, before, or pipes, was because I wanted to, like, plum pudding is the one, Coral, yes. I just wanted to try growing my own tobacco. And so last year I grew my own tobacco and dried it. And we'll have some more tobacco plants in my garden this year. So I was like, you know what? I should probably actually try it. And then I just immediately got fixated on all the interesting looking pipes and weird ass tobaccos and dudes with beards making YouTube videos. And boom. Now we're off again. Should get some Tom Ford tobacco vanilla. Okay. 2 people have said it. Again, I honestly don't know. Are we allowed to talk about smoking tobacco on Twitch? I think I thought, yeah, that might be a little too adult as opposed to extremely low cut shirt. What are we saying there? Meeting is over. What did I miss in the first hour? Is Sean working up on another sugar high? I am not on another sugar high, but kind of not a bad idea to sneak in some candy when Jasmine's not looking. I didn't eat enough dinner. Oh, hey, Jasmine. I was just making sure it was all in here and the dog didn't get in the candy. Oh, shit, that was the problem. If I eat this candy, I can't talk. When I post the VODs of the stress test, it's basically just going to be videos of me eating candy and listening to the team talk in Slack and me not saying anything for 4 hours. Okay. Well, then I'll post the VOD journalistic. If I get a thumbs down, then I know it won't be you. Hurricane, yeah, no beer today. I don't know. Did anybody come out here and hang out in the archaeologist area during the stress test? Board. So I don't forget. Oh, it really is a fragrance. I was like, is this Maybe I'll stop smoking pipe altogether and I'll just get this bougie ass Tom Ford vanilla scented tobacco fragrance, spray it on myself, and I'll be done for the day. I'll have a pipe in my mouth that I don't use, and I'll just smell amazing. Viro said, "Yep, I did." Did you come out here during the day or at night? Ran out there, hailed the guy, but didn't want to talk to me, so I ran back. Sorry. He doesn't. Does he not say anything? Womp womp. He said, "I would love to chat, but I'm terribly busy. There's just not enough time in the day." Etris, if what you've noticed there makes you happy, cool. I totally forgot there were shadow men over here. Go check on them. Are they still here? Or did they get deactivated? I forget. They're easy to miss. Yeah, I forgot about them. There's a lot of stuff going on. What are we going to talk about next to Aegis? Dial up? Hebrew Hammer says, telling my grandkids that the internet used to yell at me and disconnect if someone picked up the phone, that it was wired to the wall. They're going to say, sure, Grandpa. Yeah. Oh, no, they're here. The Shadowmans need weapons, though? Yeah. Zukin, do you think shadow weapons, or just throw a shader on a weapon and call it a day, right? No, Etris, really the goal is to, for us, it's tapping into all the things that we used to love and sort of how do we assemble something that kind of feels like a, oh, hey, wait a second now. Oh, geez. Sorry, minion. Oh, minion's holding his own. All right, well, I'll just let you do your deal. Norse Yeti, thank you for the prime. Do you want to make them invis like they are, or something similar to negotiator for weapons? Yeah, it's weird. When I was saying that, I was picturing like something that's kind of gray and ghost shadery, and not just invisible. Yeah, so that's what I meant. So I think that's. Are shadows undead? No, they shouldn't be. Oh, little shadow corpse. So yeah, Etris, I don't know if I just said this a second ago, but I repeat myself a lot anyway, so welcome to the club. The idea is basically just to try to think of all the things that inspired the first MMOs and inspired us as gamers when we were kids and before all of my beard turned gray. And man, the candy's already got me burping. And just tap into as much nostalgic stuff as possible. So a lot of using specific kind of shapes and simple geo, but new textures and right little fun gimmicks like this. So like simple geo, but nice textures, things like glowy eyes, right? So, and just take what I'm saying about art and have it extrapolate out to interaction styles and game loops and all sorts of stuff. Etra says, love it. So many great ideas for each old school MMO that aren't used anymore. Yep. I'm tapping into that stuff. So, and there's a lot of them to choose from. Like and it's funny, like so much stuff qualifies as an old MMO now. So, you know, I was always as a EQ designer, I was always fascinated by UOs, like economy and just the sense of place that they had there. So much of what they were doing with regards to, like, at the time, like, you know, the housing and just so much interreliance and how much of the game was driven by player interaction. And so there was a lot of stuff, and it felt like the depth of some of their systems. But I just couldn't get into it because the basic sort of flow of combat and the graphical, you know, the graphics of EQ at the time, and I found it to be, I found that part of the gameplay to be superior. And there was always this thought of, what if I could put some chocolate in my peanut butter? Like, what would that be like, right? You know, what of these things could we pull in? And then if you look at, there are lessons to be learned from everything from UO or Anarchy Online or, you know, Star Wars Galaxies, that can be added to a basic framework of like a combat model and sort of a graphical style or whatever that's different from those games, and still have it, you know, potentially come out to be something that just has a really good vibe and sense of place, good combat, good adventuring, right? So that's the thought. And if you look, there's definitely a wonderful iteration, like a solid iteration on a lot of those systems and a lot of that gameplay and stuff. But it then set the standard that wound up becoming WoW, you know, WoW set the standard that then became like the sort of path that everybody followed instead of looking at some of these other stuff or some of this other stuff. Have you guys thought about putting experience toward trade skills? New World took it to an extreme, but it was a cool concept to me. General experience pool or experience like specific to trade skills, kind of like EQ2. I mean, because the different paths of having it. So it was discussed a little bit, I think, around New World time, but in like very fleeting, just one-on-one different conversations. I think it's one of those things that when you're working on a game, a lot of stuff just kind of gets bounced around. Like, hey, they're doing this. Do you think this is something we could balance? Is it worthwhile? You know what I mean? Like, because it maybe creates an opportunity for, I can only log in for X amount of time, and so I'll just do this and it'll go towards my experience pool. It's kind of the same thing with like adventuring experience where, you know, finding new places, add stuff to a pool, blah, blah, blah. So those things have come up, but it's not something where I think we've sat down and really said, okay, let's formally talk through the implications of doing something like that and how it feeds into the overall experience economy. Um, and again, the reason, you know, it's funny. One of our early community members would ask questions, and we're like, I don't know. Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit, or we might do something like that, or we might explore something. And then it stressed this individual out, and was just like, because it's like, why haven't you made a decision on this yet? And it's like, because we're just kind of working through shit as we go, homie. And some stuff we have a strong feeling about, and some stuff we're just like, oh, let's play with it or discuss it more later. Off topic, I feel bad for today's game designers. Feels like the player base completely chews through games before they're released with bad reviews. Etris, I don't know. Being a game developer has never been easy. Yeah, Hebrew Hammer. It would be interesting to see. It would be interesting to actually talk through that entire sort of like what does that look like? Did somebody make widgets, and especially if you can have multiple trade skills, right? Like, did someone make widgets and then practice etiquette really hard and increase their spy skills and get to max level when they've never been in a fight? I don't know. Like, as just a riff, like just a discussion, bullshitting around with a couple of friends here, just the 3 or 4 of you. It would be interesting to see how that would play out in terms of balance and implications and all that stuff. But when designing an MMO, is there anything you worry about as far as game mechanics that may be trademarked or copyrighted and not a commercial mechanic of the fantasy game genre? We'd have to look at that, but I'm fairly certain that if you're not using a specific and if you look at Rick Hogue, he's the lawyer that we've used for some stuff in the past when we were first getting the company set up. He's got a YouTube channel, Hogue Law, I believe, where he gets into some of these because he really focuses a lot on like game related stuff. Unfortunately, he suffered some health problems in the last year and is recovering from that. But his older videos are fantastic. So yeah, actual mechanics can't be copyrighted. Individual like characters and specific references could be copyrighted. Names of products can be trademarked, right? Like logos can be trademarked, but you can patent certain elements. Like I've got a patent. I don't know if it ever, I think it went through. Basically, I don't, but Sony Online Entertainment has a patent that Andre and I worked on that is for specific game systems. Is it ever going to be enforced? Is it extremely broad? Is it, a weird thing to a patent? Sure. So if somebody's patented, I'm sure somebody out there, like no joke, not being sarcastic at all, but somebody is for sure patented interactive combat between multiple agents within an online persistent environment, right? Like there's bound to be a patent out there, which means that like no MMO could be made, but they don't tend to actually enforce those. I'm not a lawyer. None of this is legal advice. I'm also not a doctor or a stock broker. Also, I'm not a cat. I'm not a cat. I feel like this is what Dark and Darker is going through now. Hebrew Hammer says, people have posted some good articles on that topic. I don't think that's it. I think a lot of that, and again, I'm just speaking sort of off the cuff. I'm speaking just sort of like, this is why we actually pay lawyers and talk to lawyers and stuff like that. When there is a question, because I am not one. It sounded like in that story, it was more of sort of an accusation of maybe there was some stuff taken from a place where someone was working and then used to start a new thing, but they feel that it belonged to where it started from. But maybe that's a bad summary of it. But it felt more like, hey, don't start a project on our time and then leave and then continue the project and expect us not to come after you kind of thing. But I may be misstating it. Brown Butcher said, was the stress test so successful that there are going to be a bunch of newborn babies on the team in 9 months? No, we didn't get any money for the stress test. How are we going to buy babies? You know how expensive babies are? Riker said there's accusations of theft, yes, but the DAD developers have refuted it, and they've had their studio investigated twice with nothing found. Cool, yeah, but that was the accusation, right? That was the main thing. Zukin said babies are free if you steal them. Not legal advice, though. Not legal advice. Also not financial advice, because I do think that if you were stealing them for resale, then that could be misconstrued as stonks. Illegal advice. Okay, Hebrew Hammer. Definitely medical advice, though. The Magic Dust says, hey, anything is legal if you don't get caught. Follow me for more life tips. Name checks out. Riker said, yeah, the entire DAD topic is complex. A lot of topics are. A lot of topics are. That's why they're so challenging to talk about in a setting like this. Nicodemus said, appreciate your insight on it. Something I've never thought about. Yeah, like I said, I'm no expert. It's just the idea, I guess, is basically, I mean, honestly, if it was super easy to enforce, like, hey, this thing kind of looks and plays a bit like this other thing, I don't think mobile games would exist, or at least 90% of them would exist. Are you concerned that there may be a baseline knowledge difference between vets of older games and newer players? For instance, EQ vets that may know how certain things work and have a leg up. Now, I don't have a strong concern there. Ban someone from Discord. Let's see. Moderator log. Red. I get that up. Hasn't updated yet. Nick, what were they doing wrong? Was it just sort of a random banning, or? Oh, during the stress test. Oh, I just saw the comment above it. Shit. Sorry. Yep. Did you have to ban anybody during the stress test? Yeah, I knew that someone got banned, but I couldn't remember if it was in game or Discord. I thought it was probably Discord, and that confirms it. Fanaticist said Night Harbor is so beautiful. Well, appreciate that. You got a warning for shouting too many Seinfeld quotes? That's not true, is it? Interesting. Swanee said I made a fake Chinese gold farm spawn post. When I logged in and then a fire beetle killed you. Those things were absolutely related. Sorry I didn't write that good. It's okay. I can never tell. I don't read things good. Abagio71, thank you for the follow. Did see someone with a lewd name in game. Was that why they were banned? Well, they were banned in Discord, so I don't think it was in because of the lewd name in game. Nicodemus, you can / report the lewd name if you remember it to me in DM.
Stress test was great.
Thanks, Rev Chumley. No, that's how I understood what you... I understood what you said to mean what you just said, Swanee. Let's see. Pork Funker says, I love the dark and the light source. Are light sources like torches, light stones going to be a thing? Yeah, we've got torches. I think I'm misunderstanding your question. Will there be marble rye in the game eventually? And you can hook it to your fishing pole. Uncertain at this time if you can hook it to your fishing pole. Didn't know the policy on names if you guys have one. Well, if you felt it was obscene, then whatever our policy is ultimately going to be, it'll probably be in alignment with that. Were there fishing poles in the stress test? There were. And even fishing baits. And I think, at least in Shaded Dunes, the places you could fish would work. I don't know that they would work in Night Harbor. That's probably still a bug. Yep, there are 3 moons. Specifically so that we could sell t-shirts with one wolf howling at 3 moons. We're inverting we're subverting your expectations. We're inverting your expectations. Hogspace said, "Oh man, I missed out on fishing," which I just read as a White Stripe commercial or Red Stripe commercial that I can't find anywhere on YouTube. Oh man, my fish is sick. Next test can't come soon enough. Were rat howling at the moons? Oh shit. That would be awesome, John. We patent that idea. You can't do it. We're gonna do it first. Captain Caldwell said, yeah, we played the whole test and didn't touch the whole game. Well, I would hope not. You only had 12 hours. Bajo said, I didn't get it to participate as much as I would have liked, but I enjoyed it very much. Well, this will be the first of, I'm sure, many or at least several or maybe a few or a couple playtests to come. So, will you be able to catch rusty knives while fishing? Oh man, I learned my lesson about trying to catch knives when I was a Boy Scout. I was at Boy Scout camp and I had a wonderful buck knife that that my dad's friend had given me like years ago, and finally took it to Boy Scout camp, and I dropped it while whittling, and I tried to catch it, and I will forever get like a little bit of goosebumps whenever someone talks about catching falling knives. Captain Caldwell said, I guess my point is I didn't even know where things were. I didn't know things were even in game. Yeah, that's the fun of it. Discovering the stuff that you didn't realize was there. Carthage says, I ran the stress on laptop minimum spec. It looks way different looking at your screen. And just think, I don't even have the best computer. Also, we do know that there's a slight hardware difference, so you know, some things look slightly different for other people. Do the fish you catch have a weight attribute, and if so, who caught the biggest fish? That is actually a brilliant question. I'm not prepared to answer that. I don't think we're prepared to tell you. Well, actually, no, we should be able to tell you because fish have weight. We may not have made a great variety of weights for fish, but fish have weight. If someone caught a fish, that should be logged as an incoming item. So we may be able to find who caught what fish. How long till we visit each moon? Maybe the question is how long till the moons visit you? That's not a moon. My monitor was significantly darker than my wife's, Yushu said. Yep. I can imagine that happened. Moons will be expansion number 3. My character didn't have pants. First moon visited Night Harbor on day 1. I see what you did there. Moons crashing into the world sounds like a movie that came out recently. What's the name of the movie? I wasn't aware of that. I like any movies about stuff crashing into the world. Moonfall? I guess that would make sense as a name. Sounds like a James Bond movie, was it? With Cogspace, that's not all it stands for. Moonfall, also the one with DiCaprio? Are they the same thing? No. Moonfall movie. It's a 2022 science fiction disaster movie. I'm going to be very curious to see how they justify this. Oh. Okay. Well, this seems like something. Zukin said, I watched Deep Impact again recently. Still pretty good. I like the other one with Bruce Willis better, though, the asteroid one. Deep Impact's pretty good. Pretty good. It's a bit of a downer at the end, but it's pretty legit. Mehmet Rice said, it would be awesome if there was a board you can inspect that shows who caught the highest weight of each fish type for that month's season. That close to the dock or fishing merchant. Like maybe somewhere in the city. Brown Butcher said, I love the fish weight discussion. Give me tons of ideas. Well, I'm looking forward to you posting them. Oh, Don't Look Up was the other movie. Don't Look Up I've seen. Frisbee said, one detail I loved in EQ was that all NPCs mobs had a persistent inventory. You could trade with NPCs and they would equip items given to them and also drop them on death. It was always a thrill to see roaming mob with rare drop equip. Have memories of players trading valuable items to bees in Feydark for new players to find, and game wealthy guildmates giving their pets to Keshas. Did this cause any technical or design difficulties in EQ? I think it primarily caused customer service difficulties. I think that was the bigger bit, right? Because there was a lot of like, I accidentally gave my shit to the wrong, I accidentally clicked on an NPC, or I didn't mean to give this to this person or whatever. So. Stone Listic said, yeah, definitely GM's day full of requests to get back items. Yeah, and I don't know what it was like. You said you were there 2004 Stone Listic? So that was when I was wrapping up my time on the EQ team, or had just wrapped up my time on the EQ team, maybe. And yeah, I don't know if things changed in the period after I left, but like the logs were a pain in the ass. When I first started at SOE, when it was like still Variant, we had like one log machine to go search for that information, to basically look and see whether or not the person had it, and if they deleted it, and if it was, basically it was this whole Sherlock Holmes game to see whether or not the thing that happened with the item is what players said happened with the item. And then we had all those weird ass rules where it was there for a while. If anybody admitted to sharing an account, we had to ban them instantly. And a lot of times people were like, oh, I can't find my gear, or I can't find my item. And then we'd look and they traded it to another account, or they dropped it on the ground and then it was picked up by this other account. And then you got to ask them, hey, do you know a guy named Ryan? And they're like, okay, thank you. And then they just log out. Not that I would ever give anybody at the time, I didn't understand like sharing personal information of that sort was a thing you probably shouldn't do. And there was no GDPR at the time and blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of interesting to be like, Etris, you're Ryan. See, I've never shared my password. Then how did Ryan get your stuff? Never mind. I'll take care of it. Anybody remember GM Lydian? He was on Interrook back in the day. I used to chat with that guy regularly. Nice dude. I don't remember him. Yep, I don't. But I mean, my memory is crappy. So no joke, my play account, like basically my main, I started on Interrook as a player. And then got transferred over, got my character secretly on the DL transferred over from Interrook to 7th Hammer so I could play with Steve Burke's guild. Carthage 86 says, I remember Thomas Wells when he worked on EQOA. Spoke with him a lot. Fun story. Thomas was a twin, and his brother worked on EQ. They were both really good designers. The twins were awesome designers. Thomas was really good. He wound up like becoming like he went to a much bigger company later on and wound up basically being in charge of design and going from studio to studio and working with them on their game design and stuff. I'm not sure what his brother ultimately did. Did you know a GM named Frisnick in EQ from Lannis? He was a fun guy that did a lot of player events as well as just hanging out. Yes, Frisnick is the last person that I had on stream for an interview. His name is Paul. And I was wanting to interview him from the moment I started doing interviews. If you haven't watched any of the interviews, that link right there is to the Loving Robot YouTube page. And there's something like 40 videos or something. I think I've been saying 60, but apparently that's a lie. There's like 40 videos there that are a couple hours each, most of them, of interviews with different people that used to work on EQ, and a buddy of mine that also worked on Dayoc, but he was a guide on EQ for a while. And Friznik is the most recent interview. If you go there, it'll be basically something about the King of the Gnomes, because it was Friznik. Yeah. Paul's a legend. He is incredibly cool. I'll put it. Let's see. Yeah, Jasmine's got a early day tomorrow, very early day tomorrow. So I'll probably wrap up here a little early, and then I'll be back on Thursday. But I still got a few minutes. Sitting around shooting the shit was my favorite part of MMOs. Always wanted to be a guide. Yeah, I mean, I had, as far as frustrating as it was to be a guide and GM at times, I had some really good times. We wound up joking around and having a lot of fun in the pit. You know, it was very stressful because all of us were there with the hope of becoming, game developers and shit like that. And so we didn't want to screw up and lose our potential opportunity to be on the team. So that part was stressful, and it was work, but it was, in my opinion, it was really satisfying work to, be able to solve some problems for people, enforce justice on the server every once in a while. I felt like we did a lot of good for people, and it sucked when you couldn't do certain things for folks, right? When somebody's like, the item policies were one of those things where it was something where there were times where the policy was such that we just couldn't give you a satisfying answer. I don't know that this is true. Stonelistic, you can let me know if this was a policy or not, but it might be something where, like, if we saw that if you drop the item, right, like, and someone picked it up, then maybe we couldn't reimburse the item, because it's like, how do we know you didn't trade the person or something? Or maybe we could, when someone dropped the item, and then, when someone dropped the item but didn't pick it up and it just disappeared, then maybe we could give it back to you. There are just times where it's just like, I don't know what to tell you, but we often try to err on the side of giving you something that will, make your experience better. But then just getting to be able to watch people have fun and do cool shit, I don't know. It was a satisfying job. Death to Gnome said, is there a video with Steve Danuser, aka Morgard? Yep, there is. Though I can't remember. I don't think Steve and I like worked directly. Because he was on EQ2 and I was only on EQ2 for like a week. Cloudspark, thank you for the follow. Stonelistic said, you're spot on. We were fair and balanced. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, the amount of, like, I don't know. I felt like Sherlock Holmes sometimes. I don't know about you, Stonelistic. Like, I felt like there are sometimes when you start snooping people and digging into the logs and all that type of shit, you like uncover situations where people were like trying to game the system or doing super shady shit, and you like build up a little like investigation on them, and next thing you know, you're banning like 5 people. I remember one time we found that a senior guide was basically assisting a guild, because the guide and the guild leader were in an online sexting relationship or some silly shit like that. And it was just like, Man, it wound up being so much drama. Freak said, I spent the last 8-ish years as lead GM, and by far the best job I've had despite the mix of good and bad. What game was it on? Field Rec says one of the great things about EQ is they never penalize players for development changes like items like Mana Stone. They just made them stop dropping it, but didn't take them. Is that something we can expect from M&M, that type of philosophy? I mean, at the heart of the philosophy, it's essentially try to own the mistake and you know, be generous to the players. I think it's one of those things that we would look at and just see like how incredibly horribly broken is it, and if so, why is it in game in the first place? If it's just completely destroying the game or overpowered or imbalanced or whatever, then yeah, we'd have to look at it, and we're gonna do what's best for the game and the community. But if something's just kind of quirky and a bit imbalanced, then you know, so. Any crazy player feats, accomplishments that I remember? And not offhand. I'm sure there, if I like actually sat and thought about it. Sure, I remember something funny about people stacking items and getting into weird places and doing all sorts of shit. Encrypt says logs these days are much easier to read than back in '99 for sure. Absolutely. Nimitz asked, "Hey Sean, how was the overall feel about stress test?" Really optimistic, and like we came out of it really optimistic and really happy with how the weekend went, and I think it was pretty energizing. Now we're going to continue to act on some of what was learned, and improve things from where they were in the stress test. I heard about that scandal. It was kind of funny to hear about the sexting bit. Rumor was the whole guild got banned or broken up. I don't remember that part of it. Do you remember which mob it was related to? Let me check and see if you're talking about the same thing. Stonelistic says one of my detective memories was when I rolled a character just to befriend a duper and then we banned him. Hilarious. The Cuban. What's up, buddy? I think the most iconic thing about EQ was CSRs. It had a layer that's missing from every single modernized MMO today. It was interesting having like a face, right? Like a server sheriff. I think that was pretty important. Field Rec. Or is, you know what? It's Field or EQ, isn't it? I've been fudging it up the whole night. Sorry. Is it? It is Field or EQ. Yeah, sorry. Were you guys watching live when Conquest killed the sleeper? Yes. And if you watch the interview, that I just mentioned, the Paul Carrico interview. So go to the last VOD, the King of the Gnomes one. Watch that interview because he was actually the GM during the sleeper situation. So Lorraine79 says, Robot, I just wanted to say thanks for allowing us to play test your proof of concept. Had such a blast playing. I told my friend who was in EQ beta back in 98 and got me into EQ in 99. We're so excited for the game and what you're bringing to MMO genre. One of the questions I have, are there plans for NPC mobs to have intelligent AI or decision trees instead of stagnant pathing? No plans at the moment. Now, there may be certain tweaks where they follow different routes or whatever based on something that's relatively deterministic that we set up. But there's no like idea for some complex AI or different personalities for them or anything like that for now. Because part of the fun is like the pattern recognition, and in areas where we want to mix up the potential for pattern recognition, we'll probably talk about that. So, but there are no like actual plans at the moment for that. Any plans to have Lambert or any of the old devs back on stream? I was just talking to my wife about that a couple days ago. I really should follow up. I really should follow up with some of the guys. I saw Ryan Barker was in here during the stress test. And he's been on a couple times, and it's always fun to talk to him. And it might be good to catch up. I mean, it's actually been in like a couple years at this point. So, Mehmet Rice, I'm glad your workday's over. Have a safe trip home. Have a great rest of your day. What was the Dark Ages guy? Oh wait, that was the Dark Ages for me. I can't remember his own names. Maybe Umbro. Who you were talking about? I have no idea. Jay Copey, thank you for the follow. Oh, the Cuban, don't worry. All sorts of people cheesed all sorts of shit. It's fine. Did I ever mess with players when I was a guide? Me and another guide created a game called Two Brooms, and we would turn ourselves into an invisible model, hold brooms and flash on and off on the screen, and then take turns, see who could appear on stream the most times before a streamer noticed and said something about it. Nope. Didn't play a lot of games as a guide because I really wanted to be a GM. And then once I became a GM, I only screwed with people within the rules because I wanted to become a developer. Who was talking about how Kunark was meant to be a one-time expansion? What's up, Breck? Good to see you, buddy. There a couple people. So I think Todd might have, Kevin might have. I think a number of people mentioned that at first they didn't think there was going to be anything beyond launch, and then it was like, okay, then Kunark's going to be done, and then we'll be done here, and then so I mean Zatkin as well. A number of people have. All right, guys. I hate to do this to you, but it's going to be an early morning tomorrow. I know it's only 2-hour stream, but it's been fun. I'll be back on Thursday. Aramisk, it is the end, but not like the end. Brex. Aramisk, I did not go to any school or anything like that. I was all on the job training. I became a guide and then became a GM via the guide program. And then from GM, I became a design apprentice. And then I got on the team. That is I think the shortest I've ever told that story. Yeah, sorry, buddy. I know you just came in. Sorry, Brex, but it was good to see you. Brown Butcher, good night. Hell's Ridge, later. John, later. Cogspace, take care. Magnamar, bye-bye. Thank you. Schmonite. Thank you for streaming, Lovable. I'll take that new name. Have a good night yourself. Thank you, Stonelistic. Hop in here again. It'd be fun to talk to you some more about the good old days of GMing. Frisbee, thank you for the prime. A confused cyborg, thank you for the follow, unless you accidentally did it because you're confused. No harm if you unfollow. Rev Chumley, later. Chas Solo, see ya. Encrypt 128-bit. You're welcome. All right, Brex, check the VOD. Chinny D, take care. Turkin, tschüss, bis später. Thanks, Nimitz. Idris, alrighty. Nick, later. All right, I think that's probably it. I think that's it for everybody. I'm gonna do the thing where I wave. All right, and then boom. All right, I'm out of here. See you guys. See you, Strange Shay. See you, Robert. See you, Organic Cow. I'm gone.